spiritual awakening and the call to alchemy. What if this moment, this exact moment in which your eyes landed upon these words, is not random at all? What if instead you were pulled here by an invisible current woven through the threads of your own consciousness? In the realm of spiritual alchemy, nothing is accidental. Coincidence is merely a code, a disguised force responding to an unspoken request from your inner world. You did not find this video. It found you. It's the echo of something you once knew, a signal from the part of you that remembers that reality is not a static thing, but a living mirror molded by perception. And here, before you, stands not merely content, but a gateway, a veiled initiation for those brave enough to reshape what they've been told is fixed. In the silence between thoughts, something ancient stirs. It whispers from the forgotten chambers of your being, calling forth a forgotten power. This is the same force that the sages of antiquity once spoke of behind closed temple doors, where the air was thick with incense and mystery. A force that does not reside in books alone, but awakens through remembrance. When you feel a resonance with ideas you cannot explain, that is not confusion, that is contact. The KYBALION and the teachings it guards is not here to entertain your intellect. It is here to rewire it. It is not a doctrine to believe, but a map to be walked. And only those who are ready, truly ready, to dismantle their illusions will see what lies behind its pages. This moment of arrival is sacred because it marks the beginning of a process that has no end. A return to what the ancients called inner transmutation, the art of shifting frequency, not by force, but by awareness. The universe around you has been whispering in symbols, patterns, and paradoxes, waiting for you to stop and listen. The pain you've carried, the longing you've felt, the inexplicable synchronicities, they were all clues. Clues that the world is not built from stone, but from energy. And energy, as you are about to discover, is not just something you feel. It is something you can direct. The KYBALION does not offer answers. It offers the tools to transform the questions themselves. And so we begin not with knowledge, but with remembrance. Not with facts, but with frequencies. Because transformation is not about becoming something new. It is about shedding what is not you. Alchemy does not turn lead into gold for the sake of metal. It transmutes the dense into the luminous, the bound into the free. You are not here to be informed. You are here to be reconfigured, to align your internal compass with the cosmic rhythms that govern creation itself. The moment you said yes to this journey, whether aloud or silently, you summoned this path into existence. Now the gate has opened. But will you dare step through? Before we speak of Hermes, of the laws, of the sacred geometries hidden within the 7 principles, you must understand this. The KYBALION only reveals itself to those who have already chosen transformation, not those who merely seek to read, but those willing to remember through practice. You do not study the KYBALION. You allow it to study you. Like a mirror held to your soul, it reflects what you fear, what you suppress, what you were meant to become. And that is where we go next, into the mists of origin, where the name Hermes Trismegistus first emerged from the veil, the sage who spoke in paradox and whose words still vibrate in the void. The hermetic legacy of Hermes Trismegistus before the rise of modern religion, before even the myths of Olympus or the pharaohs of Egypt took form, there was a figure cloaked in cosmic ambiguity, Hermes Trismegistus, a being not bound by time, culture, or even dimension. Trismegistus means thrice great, a title that whispers of dominion over the 3 great planes of existence, the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. Some believe he was a god, others a sage, or perhaps a composite of both. In the texts of the ancients, he was said to be the mind behind the emerald tablet, the architect of sacred language, and the one who whispered the secrets of the universe into the ears of those brave enough to listen. What Hermes left behind was not a religion, it was a cipher, a living current of Sabadoria ancestral, encoded in symbols, metaphors, and paradoxes. This current did not pass through temples alone, but through time itself, carried in textos prohibidos and scrolls hidden beneath the sands of Alexandria and the vaults of forgotten monasteries. His teachings did not demand worship. They demanded inner work, alchemia interior. To study Hermes was to study the self, and to study the self was to unlock the architecture of the cosmos. Every principle he uttered was a mirror reflecting the hidden machinery of the soul. The legacy of Hermes shaped entire civilizations in ways rarely acknowledged. From the mystery schools of ancient Egypt to the esoteric circles of Renaissance Europe, his wisdom flowed like an underground river, feeding thinkers, healers, and magicians alike. The Emerald Tablet, with its enigmatic line, "As above, so below," became the cornerstone of sacred sciences, from astrology to alchemy, from medicine to mysticism. Behind every enlightened system, there was a whisper, Hermes. And behind Hermes, the voice of the cosmos, encoded in vibration and resonance, Energia Cosmica speaking in symbolic form. But this knowledge was never meant for the masses. The Hermetic path is not a doctrine to be preached, but a flame to be passed from soul to soul. That is why the teachings survived not through empires, but through initiates. Those who carried them bore no crowns, wore no robes. They bore only silence, discipline, and the longing to dissolve the illusion. Hermes did not offer power. He offered the means to remember that you are power, that you are vibration cloaked in matter, that you are thought dreaming itself into form, and in the echo of his name lies a key, one that unlocks a library written not in ink, but in frequency. To truly understand the KYBALION, one must first understand the current from which it flows. It is not just a book. It is a condensation of this hermetic current, a drop of the vast ocean Hermes first stirred into motion. The so-called three initiates who penned the KYBALION channeled more than ideas. They distilled dimensions. And now, in your hands, in your perception, that current stirs again. But before we open the KYBALION's pages, we must feel the weight of its ancestry. The breath of Hermes is still vibrating through time, waiting to be recognized not with the mind, but with the soul. So ask yourself, are you ready to hear what only silence can teach? The KYBALION and the 7 Hermetic Principles. There exists a book that does not simply speak, it vibrates. A book that has no author in the traditional sense, yet speaks with the voice of 1,000 forgotten sages. Its title, The KYBALION. Attributed mysteriously to the 3 initiates, it is less a text and more a transmission, an encoded vessel of ancient truth hidden in plain sight. To the casual reader, it might appear abstract or symbolic, but for those whose inner flame has already been kindled, the words begin to shimmer with recognition. This is not information, it is initiation. What you hold in your hands is not merely ink on paper. It is a portal to a deeper layer of existence, long veiled by the illusion of the material world. Within its cryptic structure lie 7 timeless principles. They are not rules nor commandments. They are the architecture of all that exists. These principles do not ask for belief. They ask for observation, for everywhere they operate, from the dance of the stars to the flicker of your thoughts. The KYBALION dares to suggest that if one were to truly grasp these laws, one could master the art of reality itself. Not by manipulating the outer world directly, but by transforming the inner field from which all things emerge. This is the key. Distinction between mere action and true alchemia interior. You do not chase change. you become it. Why 7? Why these principles? Because they mirror the laws inscribed into the energetic fabric of the cosmos, Energia Cosmica, codified into human language. They are like tuning forks aligned with the divine rhythm of creation. And yet, they do not promise ease. They demand responsibility. For once you see the levers behind the curtain, you can no longer claim to be a passive victim of life's circumstances. Every thought becomes a spell, every emotion a force, every choice a ripple through the unseen. The KYBALION does not flatter the ego, it dismantles it, revealing instead the raw power of consciousness unbound. These teachings are not new, but they arrive always when the seeker is ready. From the ancient temples of Thoth to the whispered teachings of Pythagoras, the same currents reappear under different names. They survived persecution, flame, and exile because truth is not subject to history. It echoes outside of time. The KYBALION is simply one of many vessels for this Sabadoria ancestral, one more expression of what Hermes taught beneath desert stars and marble pillars. And yet, among all the vessels, this one remains uniquely potent, because it speaks not in complicated rituals, but in universal laws that operate whether you recognize them or not. And now those laws await you. One by one we will enter them, not as students gathering data, but as initiates decoding the geometry of existence. We will not analyze, we will activate. For each principle is not a concept to remember, but a frequency to embody. When understood fully, they do not merely inform your life, they become the lenses through which you perceive reality. Are you ready to see the hidden mechanics behind the visible world? Then follow me as we begin with the first principle, mentalism. The law that states everything is mind. Explanation of the 7 Hermetic laws. The first key, the first principle, is mentalism. All is mind, says the KYBALION. Not as a metaphor, but as a literal description of reality. Everything you touch, see, feel, and think is a projection of a vast living consciousness. The universe is not a machine, it is a dream. And you are not merely a figure in that dream, you are both the dreamer and the dreamed. This is the foundation of all Hermetic teaching, that reality is mental and thought is causation. When you begin to shift your inner landscape, the outer world reorganizes itself accordingly. This is not superstition, it is a mystical technology. Encoded in the Sabadoria ancestral, the true Magus changes the world not by force, but by imagining differently. Then comes correspondence, the law of reflection. As above, so below, as within, so without. This principle reveals that all levels of reality, physical, mental, spiritual, are mirrors of one another. Your external world is a photograph of your inner vibration. That which seems chaotic around you is often an echo of your own unresolved chaos. But this is not a curse. It is a map, a symbolic guide designed to awaken you to the patterns you've been living unconsciously. The ancients used this principle to interpret dreams, read the stars, and decode human behavior. It teaches us that what we seek in the heavens is already encoded in our own soul. And what we heal within becomes harmony without. The third principle, vibration, declares, nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. All matter, all thought, all feeling is vibration. Your body is music condensed into form. Your emotions are frequencies resonating through the fields of your being. Understanding this is the beginning of alchemia interior, because when you learn to adjust your frequency, you do not need to fix the world. You only need to emit a different song. The higher your vibration, the more aligned your experience becomes with peace, clarity, and illumination is spiritual. And so every mantra, every breath, every intention is a tuning device, shifting your resonance closer to the cosmic truth from which you came. Then arises the paradox of polarity. Everything contains its opposite: light and dark, joy and sorrow, heat and cold. These are not contradictions, but two ends of the same spectrum. The KYBALION teaches us that mastery does not mean avoiding pain, but learning to shift position on the scale. What we call good and bad are degrees of one unified force. This law is the root of transmutation, turning fear into courage, hate into compassion, density into light. It is a mystical art that requires one to move fluidly across the axis of experience without getting trapped at either end. In polarity, we stop judging and start transforming. Next, we meet rhythm, cause and effect, and gender. Rhythm tells us that everything moves in tides, rise and fall, inhale and exhale, life and death. Once we attune to these cycles, we stop resisting the lows and learn to ride them with grace. Cause and effect reveals the architecture of karma, not as punishment, but as law. Every thought, word, and vibration sets something in motion. You are not at the mercy of fate, you are its author. And finally, gender, the union of divine masculine, force, logic, action, and divine feminine, intuition, receptivity, creation. Both live within you, and both must be honored. Balance them, and you open the gateway to Energia Cosmica flowing through you without distortion. But how do we begin to apply these forces in daily life? That is where the real journey begins. Inner alchemy, emotional and spiritual transmutation. True alchemy was never about turning base metals into gold. That was a veil, a riddle left for the unready. The real transmutation, the one spoken of in whispered lines of Textos Prohibidos, is the art of transforming the self, of elevating dense emotional states into luminous awareness, fear into clarity, anger into motion, pain into awakening. This is the hidden path behind every ancient symbol of the serpent consuming its tail, the phoenix rising from ashes, or the sacred fire burning within the crucible. What is burned is not your essence, it is your illusion. And from that burning, illumination a spiritual arises. This transformation does not require denial. Quite the opposite. It requires presence. Inner alchemy begins when you dare to witness your shadows without judgment, not to destroy them, but to integrate them. The Sabiduria Ancestral teaches that every emotion is a messenger, that grief is proof of love, that rage is distorted protection, that anxiety is misplaced energy-seeking alignment. You are not meant to suppress these forces. You are meant to sit with them, decode them, and guide them back to their source. Alchemy is not clean nor linear. It is raw, cyclical, and sacred. To master this art is to understand vibration intimately. Your thoughts do not simply describe reality, they emit it. And your emotions are the ink with which those thoughts are written into the energetic field. The alchemist does not ask, "Why do I feel this?" They ask, "What frequency is this emotion calling me to embody?" Every trigger is an initiation, every breakdown a symbolic death. Every moment of silence between chaos is an invitation to transmute. And it is through this internal shift, not external force, that the world begins to bend. This is why rituals were created, not to summon forces, but to stabilize them. Breathing techniques, visualizations, sacred chants, all these were tools for transmutation. They are not merely spiritual decor, they are formulas for shifting state. The ancient sages knew this. They encoded their knowledge in temples, in mudras, in silent retreats under the stars. Alchemia Interior is not a metaphor. It is a technology of the soul. When practiced with devotion, it reshapes your inner structure, aligning you with the Energia Cosmica that flows through all things, revealing the hidden symmetry behind chaos. And yet, This inner transformation is not the final goal. It is the beginning of something even more expansive. Because once you begin to change your inner weather, something unexpected occurs. Your sense of purpose evolves. What once seemed like your mission may dissolve. New visions emerge. Old dreams fall away. This is not confusion. It is expansion. The deeper truth is this. Your purpose is not a fixed path, but a spiraling evolution that mirrors your frequency. And so, we now ask, what is purpose when the self is no longer static? Evolving life. Purpose and the spiral path. We are taught to seek purpose as if it were a destination, a singular, unchanging role written in stone before our birth. But this is a distortion. In the view of the Hermetic Masters, purpose is not linear. It does not move from point A to B. It spirals. It expands as you evolve, mirroring your vibrational state and your alignment with Energia Cosmica. To cling to a fixed identity is to imprison the soul in its own past. Your soul did not come here to repeat a story. It came to remember its power to write a new one, again and again, in rhythm with the great pulse of the universe. There are moments when what once felt meaningful begins to feel hollow. This is not failure. It is transformation. The path that once illuminated your being may now appear dim, not because you took a wrong turn, but because you've outgrown the frequency that once fed you. Like a serpent shedding its skin, you must release the old form to embody a deeper truth. Sabiduría Ancestral teaches that every collapse is a sacred initiation. When purpose dies, it is not the end. It is a signal that a higher octave of your being is emerging, and with it, new patterns, new alignments, new callings. Your desires evolve not because you are indecisive, but because your essence is infinite. A soul aligned with illumination is spiritual, does not cling. It flows. It listens to the subtle movements of consciousness within and adjusts course with grace. This is where the KYBALION's principle of rhythm becomes embodied. We are not here to dominate life, but to dance with it. To surrender is not weakness. It is trust in the intelligence of your soul's design. When you resist the spiral, life feels like a struggle. When you yield to it, life becomes a sacred unfolding. This is why the Hermetic path is not rigid. It is alive. It honors that your external mission must echo your internal state, that your service to the world is sacred only when it reflects your truth, and your truth is ever unfolding like a lotus rising from the dark waters of the subconscious. Textos, prohibidos across cultures, from the Tao Te Ching to the Nag Hammadi scriptures, speak of this mystery, that when you release who you thought you were, you make space for what you actually are. Purpose is not something you find. It is something that finds you when you become quiet enough to feel its pull. So as we come full circle, you may find yourself in a place of stillness, not because the journey ends here, but because a new one begins. You are not who you were when you began this path. The one who sought answers has been replaced by the one who listens. And in this silence, something stirs once more. An invitation to go deeper, to integrate, to share. The KYBALION is not a book to be finished. It is a vibration to be embodied. And now that the principles are living within you, the question remains, what will you do with this ancient power? Perhaps it's time to return to the source, to the text itself, now that the ancient principles of the KYBALION are vibrating within your awareness. A new door has opened, not in the world outside, but in the way you perceive it. This is no longer just knowledge. It is frequency. It is yours to carry, to apply, and to embody. But remember, wisdom that is not lived remains dormant. Transformation begins where application begins. So I leave you with a question. If your reality is shaped from within, what will you choose to imagine into existence starting now? Share your reflections in the comments. Your insights may awaken someone else. Like this video if it resonated with your journey. And subscribe so we can continue unveiling the hidden truths that the universe is ready to reveal to you. And if you're ready to go even deeper, watch the next video where we uncover the forbidden techniques that awaken your soul's true memory. The path continues.